Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics and Living, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about, let's stop judging people who don't like our type of liturgy. Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti, Amen. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. You see this, right? We have the culture wars. Everyone's always in some sort of strife. The Democrats don't like the Republicans. People who don't like a certain show don't like another certain show. Like, how can you not like Taylor Swift? I'm a Swiftie. You know, there's always division. And of course, you find this in the Catholic world. I have a very early episode I did about 3 years ago when the channel started, how there's no such thing as a Catholic liberal. Now, Catholic liberals, of course, will be angry at that assertion. But you're either practicing the faith the best that you can, or you're not really a Catholic. Now, some would see that as a hardline intolerant view. You're more than welcome to post in the comments if you don't agree. I don't ascribe to the idea of a cafeteria Catholic. To me, a cafeteria Catholic is somebody who wants to be their own pope. And there's no idea of humility. There's no idea of the church protected from faith, protected from error and faith and morals, knows better than me. I know better. And to me, that's a sign of pride. Now, that being said, I think we need to be much more open-minded when it comes to liturgy preferences, because ultimately, does it really matter what kind of Mass you like as long as you have the right interior disposition? And what do I mean like this? I have an episode here, like we have to stop being Pharisaic, and I think that you will find people on either sides of the extremes. And nay, I would say, as you guys know, I am a traditional Catholic. I do the opening prayer in Latin. I like Ad Orientem, masses where you receive on the tongue. If you want to know the type of masses I don't like, go to the playlist, Liturgical Abuses That Drive Me Crazy. It's a 7-part series. But that being said, I think that we forget, and I think you see this more probably on the right side of the church, where like any Mass that is not the way we like it is a bad Mass, especially something on the far left like the charismatic Catholic Mass. And there are charismatic Catholic Masses that are very Pentecostal, where people would jump out of the pews and start talking in tongues during the Mass. And you'll see this, I grew up in Houston, and there's a big charismatic Catholic center over near the University of Houston over there that I used to attend. And I grew up in a typical suburban Novus Ordo parish, St. Thomas More. Shout out to anyone in Houston. And even for me, going to the charismatic Mass, I was like, wow. But I think if you're on the right, you'll be like, this is not a real Mass. The words of ordination, the words of consecration have changed. And you got to remember, guys, we got to stop judging. How do you look at the sty in the other person's eye when you have a log in your own? And I think the most important thing is charity, right? That's what gets us into heaven. It's charity, having the right disposition in our heart. Think of the theological virtues, but love is the biggest one, and having charity in our heart and not judging other people. So if there's people that really like the charismatic Mass, great. You know what? They're going to Mass and they're enjoying the Mass, and hopefully they see it as a holy sacrifice and not a banquet. But that's what infuses them. It doesn't infuse me. I don't speak in tongues. Unlike a lot of Catholics that maybe are a little skeptical of people who speak in tongues, but we know it's mentioned in 1 Corinthians, so we know that people can do it, but it's just not my cup of tea. As I drink my silver needle white tea here, it's not my cup of tea. And then some of those people, they look at maybe a TLM and they're like, what? You think of the seismic difference between a charismatic Mass and a TLM, right? TLM is really quiet. There's no participation. And some people, of course, love that kind of Mass. And then some people are kind of in the middle and whatnot. And I think, the left needs to stop judging the right. The right needs to stop judging the left. And go to the Mass that you like. Go to the Mass. We're no longer bound by canon law to have to go to the church that is in our neighborhood. And that's the way it used to be. Canonically, we can go to any Mass we want. So if you're in an area that has a lot of Masses that you really don't like, okay, drive a little further. I'm sure you can find something If you are more of a right-leaning Catholic, if you can't find a TLM, there might be an ordinary of the Chair of St. Peter. They have very respectful masses. There's also a lot of Eastern Catholic parishes, especially if you live in big cities. You might find a Byzantine Rite or one of those, Ruthenian. And they tend to have pretty good ones. And if you're more left of center over here, which is my left, but you're right. If you're more left of center, I doubt you're in a town that is surrounded by super trad masses. But either way, look, let's stop judging. What really matters is charity. Like we talked about before, like there's two mortal sins that people forget are mortal sins. And that's the sin of calumny, like maligning people, and the sin of detraction, sin of gossiping. And I think it's just a part of it is human nature that we just kind of like, how are you not? Why are you shaking hands during the sign of peace for 5 minutes and doing the peace? Oh, I'm not going to turn around. I'm not going to do this. This is not respectful. How dare people receive the Eucharist not kneeling on the tongue? And it's just like, look, it's intolerance. And that's not what we're meant to be. We're meant to be charitable in our heart. And I think a better mindset, and I talk about this on the way we should view our pastors and the way we should view Pope Francis, is how about just be tolerant and like whatever. If that works for them, that's great. If you like a charismatic mass, that's great. Our pastors, right? If they're not doing it the way you want, maybe you're wrong. Maybe you're not wrong. But either way, they're the pastor. And it goes back to what? 2 4-letter words that we think are horrible, right? It's humility and obedience. And maybe you don't know better. Maybe I don't know better. But how about we just live and let live? And the other thing, like you see like people who look down on people who bring big families and the kids are crying and they're like, you need to shut up that kid. They give you that look of saying that. And it's the same thing. Those are signs of life. If the parish isn't crying, it's dying. And I think it's the same thing. If just take a chill. Let's not be so judgmental of other people. And I need to work on this as well. Let's not be so judgmental. And if people like to go charismatic, that's great. Lefties, if people like TLM, that's great as well. Let's not have this super hard line and tolerant view that if it's not my way, it's the wrong way. And we really need to purge that from us because it's not charitable. And that does inhibit and can hurt our road to salvation. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.